Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Show. On the program this evening, as both the BJP, led by the Defence Minister today, and the Congress take potshots at each other on who should take credit for the surgical strikes on terrorist camps in Pakistan, we ask a larger question, and it involves an institution that Indians trust more than perhaps any other, the Indian Army. And the question is this: the politics over the surgical strikes, how low will the discourse on an army operation against terrorists get? Now, we've decided, and have prominently been stating this for days, that national security cannot be compromised by politics or politicians. And so, we will not be having politicians on the show, not at all. Instead, we'll be talking with panelists and two ex-army officers, one of them a former army chief, both men who define the word credibility. It's a word attached more with our army and less with our politics and politicians. Big focus today, the politics over the surgical strikes. It's an army operation, credit being taken by politicians, but ironically, none of the politicians, neither in the government or the opposition, say that they're doing that. But that's exactly what they're doing. Take a look.
मैं इतना कहना चाहता हूं, अगर कुछ गलती होती तो उसका पूरा जो कुछ आना था वो इसी सरकार के सर पे आता था. So those who would have suffered losses, I think they are the one who should also reap profit out of certain decisions, not out of the strike, but guts to take decision. The satisfaction of 30 years of boiling within and the steam that had accumulated was vented off on 29th October when Indian Army, keeping in its tradition, it has a long tradition. It is a tradition of valor, it has tradition of bravery, it has tradition of moral values.
All right, well, you heard a couple of remarks made there by Manohar Parrikar, and we'll try and play out what Randeep Surjewala of the Congress party also had to say. So we need to bring that up as well in the course of this discussion. In fact, if we can, let's just listen to what Randeep Surjewala had to say. We'll bring that up in just a moment from now. But let's reflect on some of those remarks which have been made by our panelists this evening. General J.J. Singh, the former Army Chief, joins us. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, the former Director General of Infantry of the Indian Army, with us. Sabah Naqvi and Ashok Malik, both senior columnists and journalists, with us as well. And as I mentioned, no politicians, because we believe that this particular debate does not need to be dealt with by politicians. But before that, it's important to balance out those sound bites of the Defence Minister by what the Congress party had to say today.
Does he mean to say that those who fought, those of our armed forces who fought the war of 1947, 1962, 1965, 1971, 1999, as also made supreme sacrifice, including sacrifice of their lives? Onus lies at the doorstep of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to come forward, to tame his belligerent Defence Minister as also the National BJP President, and apologize unconditionally to the armed forces on their behalf, and publicly vow to never take or make political capital out of the sacrifice of armed forces.
But the question is this: who is making or who is gaining politically from this? Where is this talk of political capital coming? Is it coming from that young soldier, those young soldiers who went across the line of control? Is it coming from the leadership of the army? Is it coming from retired army officers? Where is it coming from? The words political capital. It's coming from politicians who say that they are not seeking political capital out of the action of the Indian Army, but that is exactly what they are doing. And you heard earlier on the Defence Minister, and here you've heard the Chief Spokesperson of the Congress party. They are both saying the same thing. Do we, as a country, leave important issues on national security at politicians scoring political brownie points. That's something that concerns us very deeply at NDTV, and that is why, as I've repeatedly been mentioning, we don't have any politicians on this show. But let me go across first to General J.J. Singh, the former army chief. General Singh, if there is a young commando who participated in the surgical strikes actually watching this broadcast, and he sees two political leaders, one from the government and one from the last government, taking pot shots at each other over credit being claimed, what goes into the mind then of that young commando, that young officer or Jawan?
Vishnu Som, good evening. I'm glad that you raised this question. I must tell you, we in our country have an unblemished record, but for a little period in between, of very solid democratic traditions and the rule of the Constitution. Now, who bears the responsibility for the security of our nation? It is the duly elected leaders of the time, and therefore I don't see any dispute or any question by anybody about on whom the responsibility rests. Our government of the day has shown maturity, pragmatism, and also, if I may say, initiative to do something which will send a message to our adversaries that do not mess around with us. The armed forces of this country have been a role model armed forces, and our soldiers are very loyal, disciplined, and our officers have never crossed the Rubicon in any kind of way which country shall only be proud of. So, with this kind of a background, I think the defense minister made a very relevant statement that they are responsible. The credit goes to the armed forces because we are the instrument which will carry out the government's directions and deal militarily with the situation as we have been ordered to.
General
so
Shankar,
let me mention here.
Yeah. So one moment, let me go across to General Shankar Prasad. General Prasad, do you agree with that perspective? That credit for this needs to go to the government? Isn't a government, whichever government of the day it is, isn't it incumbent on that government to take a decision? Do they need to tom-tom their ability to take a decision? Shouldn't we instead focus on what the army's young soldiers have done? They are nameless at this stage. They will remain nameless at this stage. They were given an order, and this political debate taking place at the macro level doesn't concern them at the least. All that matters to them is the men under their command and the orders that they have to follow in the case of officers.
Vishnu, I cannot use a better word than disgusting, is the way these political parties are behaving. I do not wish to single out one political party from the other. They do not understand that currently India is for the first time evolving a strategic culture, and that strategic culture needs to be permitted into its finality, and we need to support it as the nation. The strategic culture, which I say, means that there is a well-defined policy which the government is trying to evolve. And the first part is that the Prime Minister initially said that I'm not going to have knee-jerk reaction, and the Defense Minister soon after that said there is going to be some knee-jerk reaction which could be in the form of tactical responses. The Prime Minister also mentioned certain very important things in Kerala, which is beginning to show a development of a strategic approach towards Pakistan to defeat terrorism. I don't want to give a big bhashan on that, but what is important is this, that the country is today fighting terrorism. It just started. It is not the end. There is so much happening around the line of control. You see everyday action taking place in Kashmir. You hear intelligence reports of so many hundreds of people wanting to cross the line of control and cause damage into our own country. So this battle is going on. If these political parties, for God's sake, and for the sake of the nation, and for the sake of the armed forces, just kept quiet and permitted the government of the day and the military to evolve the strategic response and unleash it on Pakistan to defeat terrorism, to attack terrorism. And should a time come, should a need comes, when this strategic thing needs to be focused towards Pakistan military or Pakistan ISI, so be it. The Indian government, I'm sure, the military is also focusing towards that.
Okay.
Therefore, for God's sake, let us not politicize it to the manner in which it's doing. As far as the military is concerned, it doesn't matter what they're talking today. The soldier is very clear that he has a job to do, he shall do it. Please understand that the last surgical strike was controlled by an army commander, by 2 corps commanders, by many divisional commanders, brigade commanders and commanding officers. A large number of troops were involved in this. There were numbers involved going across the border. There are numbers involved in supporting that action. So it's a massive operation which the government has done, and the credit for it goes to the military, obviously. But the government of the day also takes whatever credit it wishes to take, but doesn't have to go tom-tomming about it.
Yeah, okay, so that's
Let us
exactly,
continue with our good
General Prashad, that's
Let's
exactly,
continue with our good
that's
work.
exactly what I've been trying to say. General Singh, let me come back to you. You know, the Director General of Military Operations of the Indian Army came out on record twice. On the first instance,
he was not the Director General of Military Operations. He was the DG Infantry. And
no, sir,
at
the
level,
DGMO. I am talking,
sorry.
General Singh, I am talking about the DGMO who made the announcements on the strikes across the line of control. He made a statement. The army acted on the basis of a political order. At the end of the day, an action was carried out by the grace of God. No Indian soldiers lost their lives. Why does it matter whether footage needs to be released? Why does it need the Congress party to say that, look, we have done this many times in the past? Why does it need the defense minister to counter what the Congress claims it has done in the past? Where does it leave us as a nation when these things are being tom-tommed? Shouldn't national security be something that we don't shout and scream about on national TV?
Vishnu, can I come in
Yes,
now?
sir, please.
Okay. Firstly, hasn't our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, said to his party people, do not go around thumping your chest?
But then what are they
claiming
doing today,
that
sir?
This is a great victory. No, I'm just stating what our national leadership is doing. They are being very responsible. Whole world is watching. And therefore, some of these irresponsible people who are talking should be told to close their traps and not talk irresponsibly.
So would you say that the defense minister, to use your
now,
own words, needs to close his trap?
Vishnu Som, please don't interrupt. I want to tell you that when the Kargil war took place, I am the guy who was a hands-on man directing operations as additional DGMO. I was there for the longest tenure ADGMO has been. I saw that war. I saw that from angles which were very close to the battlefield. Nobody else has got idea of that. Now, when that war concluded, we won a decisive political, military and also diplomatic victory.
But you didn't go tom-tomming that, sir.
No, 1 minute.
No political party went tom-tomming that, sir.
Please listen, Vishnu, you're jumping the gun. I'm telling you that we were asked as ADGMO and we were asked as a DGMO, the chief, that why did you allow them to come in? So if somebody does a foolhardy act, do you foresee a foolhardy act? They left their soldiers wounded and dead to be buried by us.
But General
They
Singh,
could not take them.
With,
1 minute.
all due respect, sir, you are
Please,
not.
Vishnu.
You have to focus on what we are discussing today.
Yeah, I know, but I'm coming to that. That at that time, the question raised by the opposition was, how did they come in? And they don't say, we will celebrate a victory. Now, this is where politics comes. Our lives were lost.
Yes.
My soldiers' lives were lost.
Yes, exactly,
We won
sir.
so many Paramvir Chakras. We won so many Mahavir Chakras. I'm the man, every citation went through me. I was in the process and I reported to the DGM and the chief. So my point is very simple. We can't get a political slugfest involving the military forces.
Thank you, sir. It has taken you a lot of time to come around to the point that you are making, and I hope that that is the point that you are making. That a political slugfest cannot be the statement that follows military action across our line of control. Sabha, let me come to you first. a lot of the statements made today, because I find both of them fairly offensive. But let's look at the Congress for a moment. This is what Randeep Surjewala said. Mr. Parrikar is unabashedly lying and misleading the people of India. The defence minister is free to give credit to anyone, but should abstain from undermining the huge sacrifices made by armed forces in the last 68 years. He should immediately apologise for his statement insulting our armed forces, denying their supreme sacrifice during multiple surgical strikes and in defending the nation. This is my strike versus your strike. Who cares? Yeah. It's an army operation at the end of the day. It's our collective security.
So Vishnu, what's happening is every day we have a new startup. Somebody will start off. But in this case, the greater responsibility does lie with the Defence Minister of India. And he has certainly said things in the manner in which they need not be stated. The Prime Minister has not done so at all, but the Defence Minister has not conducted himself in the best manner possible ever since the surgical strikes took place. There was an earlier statement about Hanuman and all. I'm not going to get into repeating all that. We all know what I'm referring to. Today he talks about 29 years of pent-up rage. We have done it. I mean, come on. Now surely he knows. I presume he does. He should know that if he makes a statement that we are the first ones to do it, there will be a reaction. Whether we like Mr. Surjewala's words or not, there is bound to be a political reaction. So in this case, unlike what the Prime Minister is doing, the Defence Minister is going around in
so it's the usual tutu meme, right?
Yeah,
you feel that Mr. Parrikar should have made those remarks?
He has a greater responsibility. He's the Defence Minister.
But how is it any less responsibility? Ashok, let's look at what Mr. Parrikar said. He says, I will only share the credit at the most. The major share goes to the Prime Minister, but the issue I will at least claim the credit for is decision-making ability and planning. Isn't any government obliged to take a decision?
It is, but many governments have not taken decisions of various natures.
Correct, 100%. But then do you need to tom-tom the fact that you have finally taken a decision?
Vishnu, the point is, without going into what Mr. Parrikar has said or whether his words were too strong or not too strong, that's a separate issue. The fact is, after any major military action in any country, in any democracy, there is a bit of competitive democratic politics. This operation went very well. It went perfectly. No Indian soldiers suffered. There was a minor injury to one soldier, I understand. Nobody died, thank God. Let's imagine if it had gone badly. Say if 3 or 4 soldiers had unfortunately been killed. There would have been a political price to pay, because the government and the political leader who in the end signs off and says go ahead. Just like at Abbottabad, which was a much more difficult exercise, President Obama took a big risk by saying go ahead. If it had gone badly, like it went badly in Tehran in '79 for Jimmy Carter, and lost him in the election, there is a political price to pay. So if it goes well, there is some political credit which can be taken without going overboard.
It went brilliantly.
Without going overboard.
So then why did these statements still need to be made?
I think what the Prime Minister has done is correct. He's been very measured in his words, and he said, let's not go overboard, let's not provoke the Pakistanis and poke them in the eye, especially the Pakistani military. Let's give them an escape route as well, because we don't want to escalate it. And I think that was a very wise and mature reasoning on his part. I hope the rest of the political class adheres to that.